Scooby licked. I think we're here.
We are.
All right.
Yep.
We did it, guys.
Yay!
Hey.
Yeah. I can hear
I can
Hear ya.
too.
Well, I can see the stream on my phone, so it's official. All right. Yeah, that's a nice picture of a bridge. All hail the colored shields.
we're not worthy.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. Nice to see all of you again. Give everybody a couple of minutes to file in before we get started.
All right on.
How's everybody's week been? Or how was everybody's week?
It was good.
You know, it's another week. You know that they've been flying by faster and faster. I feel since
Well, you
March.
get a longer and longer commute every week.
Yeah, mine keeps getting longer. Yeah,
And later, too.
I think that trend's going to continue, but
Yeah.
we'll get into that a little later because they're starting to work in the 30s now. Mm-hmm. You know what that means?
Utica.
Yeah, or worse.
Canastota.
Syracuse.
Turning Stone.
Woohoo!
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Happy Saturday. It's another Saturday. Another week, and it's another installment of the webinar series. And tonight, we're finally going to start talking about the freeways of Arizona in depth. Phoenix was the anchor city of the 2020 winter trip. It's where I flew in and out of. And it's a city that I ended up passing through on several occasions because it was central to everything that I wanted to do in the Southwest. So I ended up, originating all of my side trips up to Utah and Las Vegas and Southern California, New Mexico. They all originated from Phoenix. So the city was pretty central to the success of this trip, and I'm very happy that we're finally able to sit down and talk about it for a while and spend another Saturday night with all of you in the live chat. So welcome in. You know me by now. I'm Roadway Wiz. Oh, I hope you know me by now. And let's meet our panel on Skype. We have 3 great guests with us tonight. Joining us from upstate New York, it's Doug.
Hey!
And from Wisconsin, we have Scott.
Hello, everybody.
And representing the great state of Idaho is Corco.
Hello.
Great to have him back. God, you guys are quiet. You don't want to give any introductions real quick?
You first, Coco.
Yeah, you first.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I guess I had the good pleasure of going to grad school in Tucson from 2011 to 2012, and in that time, spent a lot of time up in Phoenix. A lot of my graduate school work was dealing with some studies for their light rail through the Department of Housing, actually, looking at how you can get affordable housing along the light rail and the transit-oriented development side and all that, neither here nor there. But yeah, I came to spend a lot of time in Phoenix. I enjoy the city and excited to talk about it and watch some video of, beautiful Central Arizona.
Yep. In my case, I'm more familiar, even though I've been more, familiar with Northern Arizona. I've been to Phoenix before, actually to watch a hockey game. But it's a city that I also, had a chance to drive around, and I look back at it quite fondly. So I'm ready to, go back through memory lane, so to speak.
And I would say the same because I still have family that lives out there, and even though I had been out there for a few years, I've been out there probably every 4 years, 3 to 4 years, 11, 13, 16, and pretty much it's my second most clinched state as far as behind Wisconsin, obviously. How all counties, all interstates, and a good portion of the state routes, too.
There's not a lot of counties in Arizona. I think there's 16 altogether.
If you do it just right, you get them all in one fell swoop.
All right.
All right, so I think we properly got our introductions out of the way. So let's get into this. Oh, wait, first, we have an announcement slide. So again, this week, we're wrapping up. We wrapped up Nevada videos this past week. And we're rolling through a few days of Death Valley area footage. That is expected to last until May 12th, whatever day that is. And then on the 14th, we will begin El Paso. And that'll be about a 10-day series. Alright, so that'll take us up through about Memorial Day. Again, I'm going to call your attention. We keep coming back to this every week. Perspective, right? Here we are. Here's our roadmap that we drew up in the middle of March as the shutdown began. And we have not deviated from this map the entire time, which is impressive in and of itself. And tonight we are right down here. And we are just about 2 months into this sequence. And I'm very happy that we've been able to keep it going all this time. I thank all of our contributors who have helped us along the way. And I thank all of our viewers who have come out every week. Our viewership has been very strong since we started doing this. And I thank you all very much. See that, guys? I knew you could do it. So that's where we are. It's May 9th. Here we are. We've got another presentation down here for next week. We'll talk about what might happen further out from next week a little later. Because we need a roadmap. We kind of need to extend this roadmap a little bit, but we'll get into that later. All right. Phoenix is also known by nickname as the Valley of the Sun. Let's talk a little bit about some of the statistics here. It is recently become the 5th largest city in America. It has a city population of over 1.5 million. The metro area also continues to expand at a rapid pace. We're now up to about 5 million people. As it has continued to grow, it is now the nation's largest state capital by population. It is a cultural crossroads, and by that I mean it's one of the most popular locations for transplants from all over the country. They all come to Arizona. Specifically, they all come to either Phoenix or Tucson. So chances are you're going to meet a lot of people from a lot of different parts of the country, and they all seem to reside in this one area. So it's
they all bring their favorite establishments with them too.
That is true. Yeah. You can have in Phoenix or Tucson. You can have breakfast at Waffle House and lunch at Cracker Barrel and dinner at In-N-Out Burger.
And then a dessert at Culver's.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, so like all these, everyone brings their favorite tastes of home with them, and that's what you get here in Arizona. Where are we here? Expanding freeway system. Yeah, I mean, Phoenix's freeway system has really taken off since about the 80s or so. It's one of the more recent cities to start expanding. Even though the interstates were largely in place by then, much of the freeway system in the valley has been constantly expanding ever since then, like going back about 30, 40 years even. And as we'll see in the slideshow, there are continuous efforts underway to keep expanding the system. And we'll get into not just the freeways that were built more recently, but we'll also talk about some of the freeways that you might see built in the not-so-distant future. All right, map time. So, we have an assortment here. This is more of a general southern Arizona look. As you'll see, I-10 does not yet exist up in Phoenix. I believe this is early 60s, I want to say. Like 63, maybe. 8 is starting
That seems about right.
Yeah, 8 is starting to take shape from Casa Grande west to Yuma. 10 does exist down in Tucson, but it has not yet been extended up to Phoenix at this point. What will eventually become I-17 is currently a state highway, everyone's favorite route number. Yeah, that's about it for this one. Now, if we fast forward a little bit, now I-10 is a dotted line on the left through Chandler and Tempe, and is a solid line at this point on the Maricopa Freeway. Notice how we have I-17 now signed on the Black Canyon Freeway. Also, one thing that's not immediately obvious when you look at this map is that I-10 is actually on what is currently now I-17 right here. This is the Maricopa Freeway. In actual fact, I-10 does something like this. It follows a more northerly path. I-10 now has a dotted line on a southerly route heading out toward the west suburbs. And we will actually discuss this southerly alignment later because, well, maybe that alignment isn't completely dead after all. And then on the right here, if we fast forward a little bit further, we have the makings of Loop 101 starting to take shape across the north side of the town. The freeways for US 60 and State Highway 51 are well advanced. I want to say this map is early 90s because now I-10 is in place across Phoenix. The western end of the Maricopa Freeway is now signed as I-17. And that's about it for that. And then we get to the present day. So we have, in effect, two main north-south highways connecting downtown Phoenix with the north suburbs. We have the Loop 101 Beltway in place. We have the Loop 202 Boomerang Highway in place. And we also have this highway, which came into being late last year. Wonder what that one is. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. And also we have the Northwest Bypass up here, which was numbered 303. We'll get into that one later as well. Okay. One thing you don't see on this map is 3-digit interstates. Arizona is one of the 3 states in the country that does not have an auxiliary interstate. How about that?
Although I believe there used to be a 3-digit interstate in Phoenix. I think it was I-410.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's another one as well that we'll talk about in a few slides. But yeah, there were freeways in the Phoenix area that were originally meant to be auxiliary routes, but instead were either taken over by mainline routes or state highways. Alright, well, this is more geared towards Phoenix, what we're talking about tonight, but we will take a second here to give you guys some honorable mentions before we get going. 8 runs east-west, as we saw on the map, between Yuma and Casa Grande. It cuts right through the heart of the Sonoran Desert and is one of the most boring drives that you could ever experience on the interstate highway system. So you can expect those videos to not appear anytime soon on YouTube, because you probably will want to fall asleep like halfway through the first one. One interstate that you will not fall asleep in the middle of is I-15, which cuts across the far northwest reaches of Arizona between Nevada and Utah. Those videos are actually already on YouTube. The highlight feature of I-15 is the Virgin River Canyon that it passes through, and that is a spectacular stretch of highway.
If you fall asleep on that one, you'll probably crash.
I would say the odds of that are very strong, yes. I-19 runs from Tucson down to the Mexican border at Nogales. Probably the most noteworthy part of that highway is, well, it's not signed in mileposts, it's signed in kilometer posts. All of the distance markings on that highway, all the exit numbers are posted in kilometers. And then we have I-40, which was revisited for this trip. Now we're in northern Arizona, in the vicinity of Flagstaff. It's a very scenic stretch of highway, although nowhere near as fantastic as I-15, but still a pretty neat stretch of highway. The colors of the rainbow. Now, one thing that Arizona is they used to be obsessed with, was coloring their U.S. and state highway shields. I got this. There are 4 photos here. There's this one, this one, this one, and this one. They are all from the Gribble Nation collection. Anyone want to take a shot at explaining how they came to be and why they were phased out?
Sure. So the U.S. routes, so really there were 2 separate categories of roads that had colored shields. There were the U.S. routes and the loops. The U.S. routes had the color varied by direction. So if you're on eastbound 80, it might be blue. If you're on westbound 80, it might be some other color. And so that was how they did the U.S. routes. And the loops had those common shields, regardless of direction, just the colored shields for, I guess, identifiability purposes, maybe. And those were just phased out really over the last. I think I started going to Phoenix in about 2004, and at that point, pretty much all the 101 and 202 shields were colored, but that was probably about when they started to phase in, just going back to the boring black on white. And I think it just had to do with, some of those 101 shields or 202 shields, they fade pretty badly in the sun and got looking pretty ugly after a couple of years. So kind of get why they moved away from those.
I think federal standards has to do with that, too.
Yeah, wasn't there something that was implemented that said, somebody from like the No Fun League swooped in and said you can't do colored shields anymore?
Yeah, so ask Florida that too.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
That's what I call the MUTCD, the No Fun League. So they're making us conform everything across the board, which,
Shitly.
Yep.
Except for California, of course, but that's a different story.
Yeah, they can do whatever the hell they want. All right. Oh, hello. So here's what you came for, right? So, all right, let's start rolling through these here. I-10. Get your notes out, Doug. I-10.
Oh, yes.
It's the east-west interstate across the valley. The eastern section of it from the I-17 split on east is known as the Maricopa Freeway. From the I-17 split on west, which includes the stretch through downtown and then out westward towards the California border, is known as the Papago Freeway.
Yes. So what happens is that the Maricopa and Papago, they're Native American names, but that section between the two, basically like through the Deck Park Tunnel and what have you, that is known as the Inner Loop.
Yes, so the
that goes through downtown.
Yeah, so Phoenix has a complete inner loop that comprises of sections of 10 and 17. In fact, one of the videos I'm going to showcase later tonight features an entire lap around the inner loop. But yeah, so the first sections of the inner loop that were built were the south leg and the west leg, which now belong to I-17. But there were many different iterations of proposals, and many contentious ones at that, for how to build the north leg of I-10 through town. And I remember seeing there were all sorts of different schematics. There were like elevated viaducts involved. There were, cut and cover tunnels involved. You're talking about probably about 20 years of back and forth and local opposition and all that other stuff. So, Doug, do you know anything about just the genesis of how we got from dotted line to reality as far as the Deck Park Tunnel is concerned?
Okay, so with the actually I do not have anything on that. Let me see if I can. No, actually I do not see anything. With the Deck Park. Here we go. Actually, I did find one. So it's also known. It's officially the Papago Freeway Tunnel. And essentially what happens is it actually there had been some going back and forth basically during the 70s, where initially there was they initially voted down a proposal for a raised highway, so they wound up putting a tunnel after that. It was approved by voters in 1979. Construction began in 1983, and the tunnel opened to traffic in 1990. It's under Margaret Hance Park.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the tunnel is that if you're on like Central Avenue in downtown and you pull off to the side and you see all this green space, that's running, in either direction, you have no idea that there's a freeway underneath there. They really did a great job of not only just building the tunnel, but also utilizing the space above the freeway for the green space, which frankly Phoenix, the downtown area, doesn't have a lot of. So they really settled two issues with one project. And I think they did a really good job with that.
You might notice there's a little bit of a center tunnel in there that's actually unused. They were intended to be bus lanes there, but they were never utilized for that purpose.
So maybe there'll be light rail lanes sometime.
We would hope.
Something else to mention about the Deck Park Tunnel was it was the final link in Interstate 10 between Santa Monica and Jacksonville. So when that tunnel opened in 1990, that was the final project that completed I-10 from coast to coast. And here we have a couple more views of I-10. This, in the upper left, it's just west of town, and then this one in the lower right is passing through town.
Interesting. I think those anti-vandalism shields are fairly new. I don't even when I was there a couple years ago, I don't remember seeing those there. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I had ever seen them before until because they don't do this in the eastern states. But you do see
No, it's
them.
really a California thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, no, in Arizona.
Well, they're sitting on an overpass, so it's easily accessible by anybody that wants to put a little bit of paint on them, if
Right.
not by their desires.
You have to leave their mark.
Yeah. 17. So now we have a north-south interstate for the Phoenix metro area. This one begins right at the southeast corner of the inner loop near Sky Harbor Airport, and it runs northward about 140 miles up to Flagstaff. If you watched our virtual tour of I-17 in the second half of March, you've already been able to see what the entirety of the drive looks like. Pretty impressive interstate, I have to say. You know, just from starting out in the middle of a major metro area to all the scenery you pass through, all the, you know, the grades and all the overlooks and all that stuff, and then you end up in Flagstaff about 2 hours later and you're 7,000 feet above sea level. It's really an amazing drive. I see you guys agree with that. Okay.
Yes, we do. Yes.
By my tongue, yes, I do.
Okay. The first section of freeway built in the Phoenix area was actually a section of what would become I-17, known as the Black Canyon Freeway. It was built in an area just north of I-10, I believe. And that was the first section opened in, I think it opened in 1959, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. And it also features something that is known as the Durango Curve, which is where... So I-17 begins, as I said, at Sky Harbor Airport, and it actually starts out heading due west for a few miles. And then it makes this sharp 90-degree turn to start going straight north-south on the Black Canyon Freeway. And where that transition happens is this pretty sharp curve known as the Durango Curve. And it's right at the southwest corner of the inner loop. Yeah, so the first exit on I-17, as you can see in this picture in the lower left, it's not exit 1, it's exit 194. And Arizona in general is very weird about its mileposts. This is not nearly the only example of this, but perhaps now is a good time to address what the heck is going on with Arizona mile markers, because they are unique. I think they're the only state in the country that does something like this, but why don't you guys take a stab at trying to explain it?
Well, I know that it's the basically I-17 replaced a state highway. I believe it was Arizona State Route 79. Actually, no, 69. The northern part is 79. But what happens is that it basically uses the mileage of the old highway. It basically continues on. For that, because at one time, basically, the highway, went a lot further south. So, not I-17, but the Arizona Highway 69.
Well, and so the way Arizona does it is unusual, and the reason 69 had these mileposts originally, and 17 is an exception as an interstate, but everything in Arizona that is not an interstate, with the exception of 17 for who knows what reason, is the distance from whatever state line. So I believe 69 is the distance. I'm not sure which state line. The Sonora line maybe, but Yeah, essentially mileposts in Arizona come from whatever the nearby state line is.
So if you started, so let's, if I-17 starts at 194, where does that trace back to? Is that the Mexican border somewhere, or is that New Mexico somewhere?
I believe it would be the Mexican border because by sort of the fastest route, it's a little over, it'd be about 194 miles to Nogales from Phoenix via, what would have originally been Arizona 93 and S80 and on up to Arizona 69.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, Arizona's pretty oddball as far as how they assign their exit numbers sometimes. Well, one highway that does not have this problem is this one, which is, again, a complementary north-south highway. We mentioned earlier that there are two highways that serve the north suburbs in the north-south directions. So you have I-17, which was built first, and then with the huge growth of the suburbs north and east of town, there was a demand for a second complementary highway. And therefore, the highway that would become known as the Piestewa Freeway was built. This was schematically planned as far back as the 60s. It even had an interstate number attached to it at one time. There are sources out there that peg Interstate 510 for this stretch of highway. But somewhere along the way, the interstate number was dropped. The state took over the project and built it as their own freeway without the interstate number attached. And this is a process that took about 30 years to complete. So let's talk a moment about the name here, because the rest of the names here are pretty straightforward. So this highway passes by a pretty prominent mountain. You can see in the distance here, this is Piestewa Peak right here. And the mountain is named for, and I forget her entire name, but
Lori Piestewa.
Okay, thank you. She was, I want to say she's the first Native American woman to die in active duty for the U.S. Armed Forces. I believe this happened in Afghanistan, I want to say.
It was in Iraq.
Iraq, okay. So she died, I believe, in 2003. And
yes, that I can confirm.
Yeah, and so the original name of this highway was the Squaw Peak Parkway, because that was the original name of this mountain. However, due to the offensive connotations of the name, it was decided in 2003 by the Arizona State Legislature to rename the mountain, and it was named in honor of Lori Piestewa. And therefore, the name of the freeway was modified to account for this change. All right.
Yes. And then basically other thing, and actually you can climb that peak as well.
Yes, I know you can do that, yeah.
Yes. But actually changing the name of the highway and the mountain was actually something that was, basically there was a lot of back and forth even before, for a number of years before they renamed it after Piestewa. And then finally, they decided in 2003 to name it after she had died in combat.
Another side note about the 51, 10, 17 area, the inner loop. The two interchanges, the ones with 10 and 51, 202, and with 17 and 10, pretty generic names for those. I mean, the 17 and 10 one, basically they call it stack. And for the 202, 51, 10 one, that one, I don't know what the proper name is, whether it's the mini stack or the short stack. I think I've heard it called both.
The mini stack.
That makes more sense to me. And I have to wonder if it's really mini, because it's a little bit bigger than the stack itself, area-wise, but definitely the stack is taller.
That is true, and one interchange that is definitely taller than the mini stack is the Super Red Tan interchange. And what do you know? We're on the slide where we discuss that. So, US 60 is basically a straight line from near Sky Harbor Airport out towards Apache Junction and the foothills of the Superstition Mountains. It's a full freeway. And it literally is a straight line. You get on it near Mesa and you go for about 25, 30 miles and it's a straight shot the whole way. Not a whole lot to see. However, one of the things you'll come across in the far eastern suburbs is the Super Red Tan interchange, which is, and we should discuss why it's called that.
Yep.
You have 3 freeways that converge at this 4-level stack interchange. You have the Superstition Freeway on the bottom level, and then coming in from the north is the Red Mountain Freeway, and coming in from the south is the Santan Freeway, hence Super Red Tan.
And the Superstition Freeway has basically seen steady growth as far as length and width as we went through the decades. I remember being back out there in the late 80s when it was not very far past the midpoint of the whole length of it and only 4 lanes. But now, as you can see, it is more than 10 lanes and goes all the way out past Mesa as everything grows.
Oh yeah.
And as you go through past the Super Red 10, you'll notice lane drop after lane drop after lane drop as it goes past the mountains there.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that once you got past 202, the traffic really drops off in a hurry. Because you're basically, once you're a few miles past 202, you're out of the metro area.
Right, because I know Apache, when I was out there, basically, I had taken Superstition out to Idaho Road, and then I actually went to, I think it was the Lost Dutchman State Park, and I'm looking at my pictures, and back then it was just 2 lanes in each direction until I, essentially got to 202, and then it started, widening up, so.
It's a very typical suburban freeway. You can see in these photos here. It's wide as can be, and it's very, very uneventful. The one thing that I will say at this point is that I'm very impressed with how Arizona DOT has gone above and beyond in a lot of cases when it comes to landscaping and artwork on their freeways, whether it's in the median or off on the buffer areas on the shoulders, bridge abutments, bridge piers. There's really a lot of interesting stuff that they're doing.
Without a doubt.
Yes, I've noticed that too.
They've also done a good job with the spacing of ramps and the length of ramps on their freeways on the more modern stretches. Downtown, obviously, you got a little tighter spacing in the ramps, but as you go out into the suburbs, you definitely got the mile in between interchanges.
All right, all hail the colored shields. Let's talk about a few highways that have them, or at least had them at one time or another. Loop 101 is Phoenix's de facto beltway. It forms pretty much 3/4 of a loop. It starts in the west in Glendale, circles around the north side of town, and then down south through the east side of the metro area before terminating. Well, we'll come back to where exactly it terminates because it's not exactly clear. It depends on who you believe, I think. But Loop 101, let's just say, ends somewhere southeast of Phoenix. Because of its great distance and because it cuts right through the middle of the sprawl of the suburban metro area, it's not only a bypass for traffic around the downtown of Phoenix, but it's also the principal highway for a lot of these municipalities. So you have quite a mix of local and long-distance traffic fighting their way along this highway at all times. Also noteworthy is access to the area's sports venues. So it was University of Phoenix Stadium, the home of the Arizona Cardinals, but they renamed it recently. I forget what the hell they call it now.
State Farm Stadium.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So then the Coyotes play right. Actually, I think the Coyotes and the Cardinals share the parking lot because the where the Coyotes play is basically like right across the street. I think it's a Gila River Casino Arena or something like that.
I see. Yeah, so 2 of the area's 4 major sports teams do not play in Phoenix. They play in suburban Glendale, whereas the other 2, the Phoenix Suns and the Arizona Diamondbacks, play in downtown Phoenix.
Yes.
And again, another major impressive suburban freeway here. You will see there are no colored shields. Those were replaced and phased out a while ago. I happened to find a colored Loop 101 still hanging around on the north side of the loop. Happened on it by accident because I was in the process of U-turning for video purposes, and I happened to see it sitting right there, so that was a pleasant surprise. Did not see any 202 shields, though. Any of those brown ones. And
I have seen them on the side roads at times. And there was some on the southern stretch of the freeway as well at one point, but I don't know if they still exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that'd be...
Yeah, I'm trying to think, even 8 years ago, the only side road 202 shields I know of were in Tempe. But, yeah, who knows? There could be some buried somewhere. Yep.
That's where I saw them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my pictures from the 202, and the colored, the brown colored shields, in the sun, it, would turn, the brown would turn some sort of light blue, so, basically faded white blue after a while. So, probably, best that they aren't using the colors anymore, even though they're really neat to, even though the colors are really neat to see, so.
Is that really what they faded into, was a lighter blue after all that?
Yes.
You notice how the brown
I can vouch for
signs, how they fade? It's the same pigments.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never would have guessed that you would start out with brown and end up with light blue after a few years. But, hey, we've been talking about Loop 202 shields, and what do you know? We're on the Loop 202 slide now. It's amazing how that works, right? Alright, so we have a single designation for what are basically 2 separate freeways, even though it's one continuous roadway. You have the Red Mountain Freeway and the Santan Freeway, and you know what I'm going to do real quick? I'm going to excuse excuse me for a second. I'm going to back up a little bit here. Let's go in reverse. Here we go. Right here. Let's draw this out for you guys, just so everyone's clear about what's going on here. So, Loop 202 has 3 distinct sections. They each have a different freeway name. So, let's draw this in so that we're on the same page here, as far as where each section exists and where it goes to and what it connects to. So the Red Mountain Freeway starts here at the northeast corner of the inner loop, goes through Tempe and Mesa, like this, and then comes down to the 60 at the Super Red Tan. Then, starting at the Super Red Tan, you head back to the west. That's why I was calling this highway the Boomerang Highway when we introduced it first, because it does kind of an out and back kind of thing, right? See, we're doing this out and back. And that was the extent of the 202 until December of 2019, when this section happened. Phoenix area residents woke up one morning and boom, there was a freeway here that wasn't there before. How about that?
Yeah, I wish that had been there when I lived there. That would have been so nice. I used to take the white line south of there to get up to my folks lived in Goodyear briefly, and would take surface roads to bypass downtown Phoenix. And it would sure have been nice to have had that freeway.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that little freeway that we've highlighted in yellow in a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a big help, at least for a few years, until all the sprawl catches up with all the freeways. Alright, let's go back here. So, we've established which sections of 202 are the Red Mountain Freeway and which sections are the Santan Freeway. And again, it's basically, in effect, it's 2 different freeways that serve the far eastern suburbs of Phoenix, originating from the I-10 corridor. So, I didn't realize this until I was actually researching this for the slideshow. Apparently, there's a bit of a disagreement, depending on which agency you listen to, about where exactly Loop 101 ends and whether Loop 202 even exists at all on the far western end of the Santan Freeway. So we're talking about the section from the southern terminus, or the southeastern terminus, of Loop 101 in Chandler, and from that point on west to the I-10 junction. It was originally in the 80s when they drew up the Phoenix freeway system. That was supposed to be signed as part of Loop 101. And in fact, when we talk about the South Mountain Freeway in a minute, that was drawn as a dotted line in the 80s as a part of Loop 101. It was not a route number, because Loop 101 was meant to be a full beltway. Somewhere along the way in the 80s that was changed. Loop 202 was signed on the Santan Freeway. However, there's disputing evidence as to whether the change was actually made official. So you'll see Loop 202 shields, but there might be some question as to whether it actually still is officially Loop 101 for some reason. We do not seem to have.
I'm just curious. Do we know what sources it is? I'm just curious. Do we know what sources it is that still think that 101 goes between 202 and 10? I actually heard of anything contemporary that says that, so I'm just curious.
No, there's a disagreement as far as state agencies go.
What?
Which one?
It would be state agency. I mean, ADOT controls the roads. What would be the other agency?
I don't have it in front of me, but I do know that there was disagreement as far as whether, because the original plan was Loop 101, and then they decided to make it instead 202, but there's a question as to whether or not they actually officially changed the numbering of the highway. So, like, they threw up the 202 shields, but whether it's still internally acknowledged as 101.
I mean, I know ADOT's route logs call it 202, and it's their road, so I don't know. I mean, maybe there's... that's interesting. Anyway.
Let's just settle on 202 for the purposes of this program.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't disagree with that.
Yep. And to me, it looks like that's the continuous number, especially with the new part of 202 as well.
Did you say new part of Loop 202? Well, first of all, here's a couple of photos of the Red Mountain Freeway. This is westbound approaching Phoenix. This is eastbound in Tempe. Here's a couple of photos of the more quieter section of 202, Santan through Chandler. And somebody said new section of freeway, so haha, here's a slide for that. South Mountain Freeway. It was a dotted line on a map for about 30 years, going back to the 80s. It was known originally as the Southwest Bypass, and I mean, that's basically in effect what it is. It completes what is considered to be the Phoenix Beltway, the southwest quadrant of it, it connects into I-10 at both ends. It allows long-distance traffic to bypass downtown and the busy I-10 and I-17 corridors. Also, as you see in these pictures, they didn't build it lightly. They built it with a lot of lanes from day one, because this part of the metro area is expected to grow significantly in the coming years. So, it's a freeway in the middle of nowhere, but they built it with 8 or 10 lanes because they feel that traffic is going to be coming sooner or later.
All right, better to plan ahead.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Phoenix is one of those cities where they're actually somewhat close to keeping up with the demand on the freeway system, because Phoenix is a very car dependent city, and especially up until the last few years when there wasn't any public transit in Phoenix. Nowadays you have some light rail stuff making some inroads, but predominantly it's still a car-centric city, car-centric metro area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's impressive that they were able to build this with the size and the capacity that it has on day one, so that as the metro area continues to expand, the capacity is already in place to accommodate that. And again, it's a freeway that on first glance is not really near any populated areas, but ADOT expects that to change in the not so distant future.
There'll be plenty, and then basically there'll be plenty more. There's some more freeways, on the drawing board for that as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
That is right. So we've had 101, we've had 202, so why not have a 303? So this is way out in the far northwest regions of the metro area. This highway, as it stands right now, begins at I-10 at its southwest end and ends at its northern end up at I-17. Eventually, this is going to be a major full freeway. It's actually kind of already at that point. The final at-grade intersections were removed in the last few years. So this is, you could argue that it is a full freeway for its entire length. However, up in the northern end of the highway is where a lot of work still has to be done. Evidenced by this picture in the lower right, where you can see that what's going on here is that 303 is utilizing the right-of-way of entry and exit ramps on its main highway. because they plan on building interchanges way out here at some point. And so you have this major corridor that, again, this is another area that's going to be expanded on greatly as far as development. And so they have the freeway already in place, or at least most of it, so that when that demand hits, they've already got the corridor lined up. Let's see. Yeah, we'll come back to this extension proposal in a little while. But
That wouldn't be the Highway 404 extension, right?
I'm just waiting for them to build a 404 at some point.
All right.
That would be the
Right
next...
now, it's not found. Thank you guys in the chat.
Oh,
Yep.
Great.
Now I'm looking at some of my pictures. This is going back 10 years of the Loop 303, and parts of it were a Super 2 back then, it looks like.
Yep, back in 2011, the latest.
Yeah, I haven't driven it since it became a full freeway, or since they built the 10 interchange. I remember, that's a new, because you used to have to go Cotton Road and then sort of merge onto it, and so that's cool.
Yeah, and even it was still under construction back in 2013 when I passed through there. I got to get out there with a chance to see it and drive it on 60 and 16, because my purpose out there wasn't roading, it was actually family. It was Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah, because the 10-303 interchange out here in the west suburbs is really impressive. That was built in the last couple of years, I think. Or it was finished in the last couple of years. But, the 303, for the most part, has gone from a Super 2 all the way up to a 6-lane freeway in the north suburbs. And that's all been done recently.
Yeah, it's probably a little cooler up in that part of the Phoenix metro area as well. It's a little bit higher up in elevation on the northern part of the 303.
Not exactly. It's still pretty flat in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't start climbing until you get past 74.
Yeah. Let's see. Where are we now? Oh, we're at Sky Harbor Airport. So let's talk about 143 and why it exists and why, for instance, Highway 153 does not exist. We actually had two competing ideas for north-south connection to Sky Harbor Airport from I-10, but the 143 ended up winning out in the end, and that is the freeway that was completed, whereas the 153 corridor just to the west along 44th Street was not completed in full. And I'm going to cede control of this slide to you guys, because you guys know more about this than I do.
Okay. So I know that for 153, which was the initial Sky Harbor freeway, it was a small remnant of the old northern alignment of Route 143. It was in Route 143. So essentially, what happened is that they found, because they had built 143, 153 was no longer needed. So the western half of the original alignment was reused as a right-of-way for the SkyTrain people mover, basically at the airport, and then essentially the road's an extension of 44th Street in Phoenix now. So that's the old Sky Harbor. Sky Harbor Expressway or Sky Harbor Freeway, and then 143. It's essentially the part that still the part that still exists, and they decided there was a 1985 freeway plan where they decided 143 was going to be the road, basically the freeway for the airport. That connects 10 and 202. At one time, another thing too is that 143 was also not a freeway, but was a parkway. It had traffic signals and intersections. But, as Phoenix grew, they needed a more free-flowing connection to the airport. So essentially, as time went on, basically especially during the 90s, that's when they did the construction on the freeway. First, basically at Sky Harbor Boulevard, and then, up to Washington Street. And then in 2011, they did major interchange improvements at the Loop 202.
Yes, they did. So yeah, another pretty straightforward highway here, although this was a much shorter one than most of the ones we've talked about already. Hey, Mr. Angery is back. And why is he with us tonight? Well, he is here to tell us about the unbuilt and proposed freeways of the valley. So let's spend a little time talking about dotted lines on maps, shall we?
Woohoo!
This makes me angry.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Very angry.
I was gonna say, you guys sound really excited about that. But the first order of business here is the Northern Parkway, which is a east-west highway that's currently partially complete. It's in the process of being expanded/extended. It begins at the 303, way out west of town, and is basically going to be an east-west corridor connecting the 303 with the 101 and the 60. So this is the second phase of the highway that's under construction right now. Phase 1 opened a few years ago. That's what you see here.
It's also near the Luke Air Force Base.
Yeah, that is true.
So it has another purpose as well. So,
Luke Skywalker Air Force Base. So you see what currently exists is in red here. Let's go back to the pen here. So this is 303. That's the wrong color. Let's do this instead. Here's 303 out here. This right here is 101. See where it's going to cross that. So it's meant to continue east, interchange with 101, and then end here at 60 in Glendale. I don't believe there's a plan in place to continue it further to meet I-17, but that might
too developed out there.
That's what I figured, yeah. So that's what you have to look forward to in the next 10 years or more as an eastern continuation of Northern Parkway. I think the next phase of it is set to open next year, and that would take it somewhere out in this area. Or maybe, no, I don't think it's going to go all the way to Loop 101 just yet, but eventually that's the plan for it. Other freeways that are currently dotted lines. Let's talk about 30 for a minute, because that one's kind of neat. Now, remember how we were talking at the beginning about how I-10, when it was first drawn up in the valley, it followed a southerly alignment, right? Well, basically that southerly alignment is now taken up by the 30 freeway, which was drawn up recently as a east-west relief route for I-10 across the West Valley. Now, right now, the section that they're studying the most for construction is between the South Mountain Freeway and the 303 extension coming down from I-10. This is the area that they're studying right now for construction. The section to the west of that is a very long-term possibility. The section east of that, which again I call to your attention the Durango Curve interchange right here at the southwest corner of the loop, that section has been put on hold. I'm not sure if that's because they are saving it for later or because they'd rather not build it. I'm not sure where they stand on that, but the full vision of 30 has it basically take on the right-of-way of the original path of I-10 through the West Valley, which is starting at the Durango Curve and heading west. That makes sense, right?
Yes. Now, the official name that they're going to be using is the Tres Rios Freeway.
And why is that, Doug?
And that is because it's named after three rivers: the Gila River, the Agua Fria River, and the Salt Rivers.
It's the Riverfront Freeway.
Yeah, Three Rivers Freeway. Pittsburgh will be angry.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that.
Allegheny County, Pennsylvania.
That's
Yes.
right. Yep.
The Allegheny County, Pennsylvania football team won't be too happy either.
This schematic down here shows you some potential different alignments of the freeway through Goodyear. It also shows you the 303 extension, which, as you see, the slide I showed you with the major stack at I-10 is up here, but the freeway ends basically right after that. So there's active consideration for a southern extension of the highway through Goodyear and off to the south. Another thing we should touch on quickly here is the 85 corridor from I-10 down pretty much due south towards Gila Bend. Most of that is already freeway grade. However, there are a few nuisance traffic lights, and full upgrading of that corridor, that whole stretch of highway, to freeway standards is expected to happen in the next, I don't know, couple decades.
And it's actually, when you, I have driven that portion, and the right-of-way that's being used is actually future frontage roads. The actual freeway grade is not actually being used at this time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that does make sense.
And that was often advertised as part of a bypass of Phoenix. Even now, I don't know if even now, using I-8 as well as Arizona 85 to get around Phoenix.
Yeah, you do see signs on 8 as you approach 85 in Gila Bend. You will see Phoenix bypass signed.
Mm-hmm. And a note about the 30310 interchange, that was actually built with the anticipation of the extension of 303 South.
That is right. Yep. So another highway to keep your eyes on in the future is the Gateway Freeway, which has been given the State Highway number 24 designation. Phase 1, which basically involved all the ramps connecting the Santan 202 corridor with Ellsworth Road, was completed a few years ago. There is currently final planning for construction of Phase 2, which will extend the freeway a few miles to the east into Pinal County. At that point, they're not really sure what's going to happen, because if you look at this schematic on the right, they're not really sure what they're going to do once they reach the end of Phase 2. As you can see, they have this whole area here under study for future development. And why is that? Well, because there's another freeway corridor known as the North-South Freeway that'll run basically in this general area between the east end of the Superstition Freeway and I-10 east of Casa Grande. And as you can see, there's by the spaghetti map here, you have several different alignments that are being studied for this north-south freeway. So the future path of the east-west gateway freeway beyond phase 2 is dependent on what happens with the development of the north-south freeway. And we're talking many years in the future before any final decision is made there, I would think. Here's what exists of Highway 24 right now. Again, it's basically a glorified off-ramp from the Santan 202 to the first crossroad that it intersects, which is Ellsworth Road. This is, as I said, it's going to be just the taking off point of a much longer freeway that will be in development for many years into the future.
If you notice how you have stub areas in the lower right corner photo.
And then we have I-11, which is really, the most interesting of the corridors because it's not just a Phoenix thing, it's not just a Las Vegas thing. This is a statewide regional thing that is under development. We talked about I-11 and not just what part of it exists and what plans Nevada has for the highway when we did our Las Vegas webinar, but now we're going to focus on what's going on in the Phoenix area as far as the development of this highway is concerned. I think basically it's been determined that 11 is going to bypass Phoenix one way or the other, basically serving as another long-distance bypass of the metro area and an alternate route for I-10 traffic. Other than that, very little has been firmly established. As you can see down on the lower right, they have a basic concept in place for what they want to do. Have it originate somewhere near Casa Grande, have it swing out to the west of Phoenix, and then up along the 93 corridor towards Nevada. Other than that, there really hasn't been a whole lot confirmed to this point.
Well, they do have a name that they're going to be using for I-11 in the area, the Hassayampa Freeway, which is the name of a river in the area. Hassayampa River.
Yes.
And I would say a lot of this is getting to be pretty old, too. I guess 8 years ago now, I remember sitting in my boss's office in Tucson, and she had a map of a potential I-11 corridor that looks very similar to this. And so I don't know how much work they're actually doing on this right now, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so this map on the right features central and northwest Arizona, and the map on the left features the Tucson area. And there's long been discussion about a Tucson bypass route. And in this iteration of the proposal, that bypass route is signed as I-11. It's got a weird route to it. You see what it does? It comes down from the north up here, around the west side of town, intersects I-19, then goes back on itself, and then does this before ending at 10. Pretty goofy alignment, especially east of I-19. I
wonder if it has anything to do with the topography of the area.
Or development.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of sacred land in their reserves as well. I mean, they got the Saguaro National Park on the west side of the city of Tucson, and at least part of it. There's two areas, but the west side there, and then there's probably Native American resident land in that area that might need to be that they would get resistance perhaps from. Not sure.
Corco, they've been talking about building another highway in Tucson for years, haven't they?
They have. It's honestly, it's Tucson has no interest in having more freeways unless their sort of political attitudes have changed in the last 5 to 8 years. They are very content with the sort of having I-10 that runs through town and dumping people on surface streets otherwise. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I would be surprised if in my lifetime there is a Tucson bypass built. I just put it that way.
Maybe that'll be Loop 404. Who knows? Or I don't know. Maybe we'll be up to Loop 606 by then at the rate Phoenix is growing. I don't know.
All right.
Did you have on your list the White Tank Freeway?
Yeah, I saw that, the White Tank
Yeah, so
freeway.
Let's take a second here and run through all of these proposals, okay? So we'll draw them out on the map here. I'll do my best to color code them, although I won't make any promises here. But let's run through these freeways. Doug, you were mentioning a White Tank Freeway. What's the scoop with that?
Okay, so the White Tank Freeway, it's a long-term freeway alignment. Basically, in the far northwest valley around Surprise and Buckeye. The freeway would begin at the US 60 interchange with Loop 303 in Surprise, run concurrent with US 60 for several miles, then split off westward to connect with the planned future alignment of I-11 west of Buckeye.
So something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So that's White Tank. There's also Highway 74, which currently exists as an east-west state highway connecting US 60 with I-17, but there's talk of upgrading that to a full freeway. You can actually see right at the top of the map. This is Highway 74 up here. So
the Lake Pleasant Freeway is the name that they'd be using.
Okay, so let's draw that in up here. 24, as we talked about, it starts here at this interchange with the 202, and is going to run out to here in phase 2, and then possibly as far out as here ultimately. Then you also have the north-south freeway, which is loosely going to follow highways 87 and 79 up through the valley and terminating at Apache Junction. The 30 that we saw a few minutes ago begins here at the southwest corner of the Phoenix Inner Loop. I'm going to draw the whole route, not just the route that they're considering building immediately. And then that'll run again as a parallel corridor to I-10 out to 85. 85, as we said, it exists largely as a freeway, but that would be fully upgraded in the coming years. You would certainly see a bypass of Gila Bend constructed as part of that, but that would probably be the most significant change that you would see. All right. Now things get really interesting, if they weren't interesting enough for you. Because there's the matter of the 303 extension, starting at, for all intents and purposes, let's start that at I-10 and have it run down like this. But then what it does after this is a bit foggy. At the same time, we have I-11 coming in somewhere in this area, and then how that gets to the south is a bit uncertain at this point. So do you have a situation where 303... there are many different iterations and possibilities, but the one that people seem to settle in on is having 11 come down somewhere in this area, possibly following 85 for a little bit before splitting again to the southeast, passing by Maricopa, and then coming to an end somewhere near Casa Grande. At the same time, you have 303 coming down from the north at Goodyear. And there's again different iterations here, but the one that seems to make a lot of sense is to bring it down, have it come in like this, multiplex with I-11 for a short distance, and then break away to the south to meet 8 south of Maricopa. How do you guys like my doodling?
Better than my doodling.
Such an artiste.
I actually did not practice that. That was my first shot at it.
Boom.
But I don't know, guys. Does that make sense? Does that look right?
Yes, it does.
Right. It looks right. It's...
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I think that the idea is to have 303 and 11 interact somehow south of town. But how exactly that happens and where hasn't really been decided yet. It's really a lot like what we were saying about this north-south freeway corridor. There's just so much that's up in the air at this point. But you can expect a lot of freeway construction in the far outer reaches of the metro area in the next generation or so.
I think short term, one of the chat members mentioned it probably should just end in that I-11 corridor. Because I don't know how much demand, how much other than desert goes through around Maricopa and Mobile there. What's there?
I don't know. I did not drive the 347 corridor, so I couldn't tell you. But I would think there's not much.
It's a whole lot of nothing, and it borders a lot of Indian reservation land, which is what, and they're not going to want to develop, and that's...
Oh, no.
So I don't know. This is an accurate representation of what Phoenix has been planned, but I've always thought it was kind of crazy, and seeing it again, I still kind of do. So
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, I do think that a good amount of this is a pipe dream, but it is interesting to see what they're thinking as far as many years into the future, what kind of freeway system they're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions from the gallery at this point? We've come to the end of another scintillating slideshow. So we'll take a few minutes. We've been at it for close to an hour and a half. So I would say at this point, let's take a... it's 7:23 Eastern Time right now. Let's take a 7-minute break and come back at 7:30. In the meantime, if you have questions for any of us, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. I need a 5-minute break myself because I'm about to fall asleep. But yeah,
should have driven down that Virgin River Gorge freeway.
Yeah,
that'll keep you awake.
Oh yeah,
for good reason.
And we'll just leave you with this. This will be our presentation for next week. Another virtual tour double header. So we're looking forward to that. All right.
All right.
Be back in 5.
or I would believe that would be 4:30 p.m. Arizona time, since they don't do daylight savings time in Arizona. Let's see, plans to reschedule the I-5 virtual tour. That would be something that, there are plans to redo that, to reschedule the I-5 virtual tour down the road. Our fearless leader will have more details on that, when the time comes to officially reschedule that virtual tour, and that's something that he may not have the answer today, but he will let you know, when there is a date that will be rescheduled.
Yeah,
hopefully it'll be sometime when a lot of us can actually meet together in person again.
Yeah, that's the thing. The I-5 can't really happen until we're allowed to have gatherings again, and that was the original plan for that one. And really, we want to do it the right way. We want to have a lot of people, in a live audience like we did for the first couple of these. So we're not going to do that one until restrictions have been lifted and we as a community are comfortable with getting a whole bunch of people together again. So I would say that the timeline for that is really not in my hands at this point.
Right. When is the weather outside frightful in May? This weekend. I was supposed to be up at my cabin originally. That was my original plan, and they got, I think, like 4 inches of snow up at the Kerr cabin in the middle of nowhere. Actually, I should be up there right now, burning wood in a fire, but that's a different story. Okay, let's see, US 60 in the West Valley, west of I-17. I personally, this is Doug speaking still, I've been on US 60 between 303 and I think it was the 101, Loop 101 that I was on. It had a lot of retirement communities from what I remember. But between Loop 101 and 17, that's a part I haven't been on. I know that the part between 303 and 303 and 101, there is a freight rail past there as well. Goes through like El Mirage, Sun City. I think there's a spring training ballpark in that area. I think things like that. So that's an area that I do need to explore. When I get the chance to head back to Phoenix. 801 and 802. When I was looking at my information, 801 and 802 were actually numbers that were used for for some of the highways that they have now. For instance, 802, that was the number that's used now for Arizona State Route 24, and then 801, that is the Papago Freeway. Please hold on. Is that the Papago Freeway? No. 30. The Arizona State Route 30. The original number for that was 801.
And here you thought they would just go up the ends like 404, 505, 606.
But I think they were just going with a lot of memorable numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they decided I think that what they decided they would use like lower numbers like 24 and 30 instead of 801 and 802. But, they could change that down the road too. You never know.
All right, welcome back. time for some videos. So we got a lot of stuff to get through, so we'll get right to it, and we'll lead off with Sky Harbor Boulevard. Let me mute this. I always have to do this. Okay, let's lead off with Sky Harbor Boulevard, and while I'm finished making my coffee, why don't you guys help narrate? This is, what the hell are we doing here? This is eastbound.
Sky Harbor.
This is eastbound starting from I-10. Okay.
Basically, you're cutting right through the terminals. Gee, what's with the construction here?
Well, I think we're just gonna go to the airport and fly home. Although I would much rather be in Phoenix, especially in February.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Do not want to be in upstate. Do not want to be in upstate for in February if I can help it. But that is, I'd much rather be in upstate New York during the summer than in Phoenix in the summer.
Mm-hmm. So obviously they're doing some build up here as we go along here. Would be 2 lanes here, but they've got the one cut off. Phase 2 makes sense.
Right.
There is a large rental car center at the one end of it that has about 3 or 4 levels of parking garage that contain all the cars. They're all probably collecting dust at this point.
Yeah, I'd say so. But yeah, it's basically the Sky Harbor Expressway is the highway is it's for the airport. It's I said it's for the rental cars, as you were saying, and basically it's probably for people visiting Phoenix, the first highway that they drive on, or one of the first, especially if you're flying in. For people who are driving in, if you're able to take I-17 down to Phoenix from Flagstaff, as we know, that's a very scenic road. 8's a little more boring. I haven't really been on 10 across in Arizona.
I have. It's just as boring.
I would say that.
Well,
depends on where you're coming
west
from.
of Phoenix, I would say it's boring.
That's fair.
Phoenix, or
The,
southeast of Phoenix.
The portion between Tucson and Phoenix, actually, you won't find it boring too much because there's a lot of traffic on a 4-lane that should be a 6-lane.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, most of it's 6-lane now, though. Once you get past I-8, but yeah, I agree. From Phoenix to I-8 on the 4-lane is dicey. But then east of Tucson, it's actually a beautiful drive. But I guess nobody uses that part of I-10, so.
Right. You got loopy-loops going here. Coming back to the subject and right at the Terminal 3.
Yes, so this is the highway.
Which actually, they closed Terminal 2 now. If, I know we just passed it. Terminal 2 is no longer in action, and that's not because of COVID-19. They were going to close it anyway right around now. And so that's...
It sounds like, I think it's Concourse A at Portland International Airport. They closed that last year. And people were writing, all about their memories of the concourse. Of course, in Portland, Oregon, they have a very weird relationship with things inside that airport, like the carpet.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I mean,
have they been
the original Portland Airport carpet still in there?
I have a magnet with the design of the Portland Airport carpet on my fridge, so...
You're entering the Barry M. Goldwater Terminal now.
Oh, is that Terminal 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got quite the stack of roads here.
Do they still have 153 shields on the terminal loop? They did as of a few years ago, but I don't know if they're gone now. Let's see.
Nope, that's 202.
No, it looks like they finally got rid of them. That's good. Yeah.
No, Shandor will be quite liberal.
Here's the new Phoenix Airport dinky train that they're building.
The people mover?
Or whatever the hell they call it.
Sky Train, I believe it's called.
Okay, yeah. So there is another phase of that they're building right now out to the rental car center. But what you're seeing, what we just passed, is part of the initial construction of a few years ago.
Yeah, and that one connects up to the broader light rail system, so you can go into downtown without having to use a car now. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Especially for conferences, and you don't need to. If there are conferences in town that you're going to, conventions, you just stay at the hotel there, walk around, just get to the convention center or wherever you're going.
Yeah, well, you know that this road geek would never do that.
So that being said, I had to go to a conference in downtown Phoenix a couple years ago and didn't have a rental car, and I sure wish I had a rental car because that downtown shuts down completely at 5 p.m. But anyway.
Yeah, were you allowed to wear Arizona business casual clothing at the conference?
Oh, of course. If you're in the West, you wear no. I mean, no. So not quite Arizona business casual because capris and shorts weren't allowed, but almost full Arizona business casual.
Yeah, one thing when I visited the Phoenix area, the thing that struck at me the most, especially coming from New York, not the freeways themselves, but the cacti, the big saguaro cacti.
Yes.
It is I'm like, wow, these actually exist.
Not sure if you guys, Corco, have you been on State Highway 74 to Lake Pleasant at all?
State Highway 74, you said?
Yep.
Yeah, I've driven the entire state highway system. So yeah, I've been on that part of 74.
You'll probably recognize one cactus that probably is giving you a gesture that's not safe for work.
Oh, is there a not safe for work cactus on 74?
Yeah, it's flipping you off.
Oh, yeah. There's a few of those, but that's great.
And yes, there's a lot of Clearview in Phoenix area. The newer freeway is pretty much all use Clearview.
And you see Arizona was one of the earlier adopters of Clearview. So you see some. I think they've replaced most of them now. Some first generation Clearview signs, particularly on 17 coming down to the 10, but before the inner loop, that are pretty ugly. I don't know if they've replaced those by now, but there's
Last time I checked the inner
old
loop.
ugly Clearview seals. They got better as time went along, but still a lot of Clearview.
Yeah, the last time I was on 10 by 60 to 202, that still even had button copy on it.
Right, and when I went, basically it was they were converting, basically from button copy to Clearview.
Yes, and that was way back.
Yeah, that all happened early last decade.
Right, that was when I was there.
Yeah. But I moved to Phoenix. It was all button copy, and then when I left, it was all Clearview, and so that was maybe my fault.
Yeah, it was your
fault. They were widening this freeway right now.
Yeah, it looks like they're adding lanes. They're adding at least one lane per direction through this stretch.
Just
We're
on the.
This is the 101.
Yeah, we're on 101, approaching I-17 westbound. There's
it's from like Scottsdale or what have you.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of construction going on right now on the 101 corridor in general, both on the north leg and also on the east leg.
And you might note they have names for most of their interchanges. The 17-101 interchange is called the North Stack.
Yes.
Yes, please make sure that you differentiate between the mini stack and the stack.
Yes.
Yep, there's the mini stack, north stack, the split, the stack, the
Dreamy
Super
Draw.
Red Tan, as we were talking about, the Superstition transition. Try saying that 5 times fast.
No.
And my
Terrain.
favorite, the Dreamy Draw. Aw.
Yeah.
The Dreamy Draw, yes.
It's a mountain pass.
Yeah.
And then Broadway Curve, which is they got some for the curves, like the Durango Curve, like you mentioned before,
Right.
Dan, and then the Broadway Curve, which is the Maricopa doing its twists and turns from between the Superstition and 17. And the other thing that you might have noticed, Dan, while you were out there, is they actually have the names of the freeway on placards below the shields.
Yes, you will see that.
I was quite intrigued by that myself.
Yeah, they definitely seem to have gone out of their way to sign the actual freeway names. That's not something you see everywhere.
Speaking of North Stack.
Here we are. Another beautiful interchange.
I think they love to sign the freeway names. I think because of the sheer number of transplants in the Phoenix area. Having sort of lived in there or adjacent to there, nobody actually uses the freeway names. Like I don't think I've ever heard anybody say a freeway name in the state of Arizona, which is as opposed to like Los Angeles or somewhere like that where folks, at least some of the old timers still use the names, but I probably just because of the diverse nature of who lives in Phoenix, it's kind of interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
I
can't remember. They like use 101 or Loop 101 or things like that. I don't think they have this. I don't think they have the Southern Californian terminology in the 101 or things like that.
Right. Plenty of.
Depends on who you're talking to.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. If you're talking to somebody from Wisconsin who moved to Phoenix, they're not. But somebody from
it's going to be a Highway 101.
Yeah, like I think people generally just call it the 101. I've heard people call the different sections of 202 by the freeway names. Like I heard people call it like 202 Red Mountain, 202 Santan, 202 South Mountain.
It makes sense because of the loopiness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
So we're on 202 now, approaching Red Tan.
We just passed 101 on 202 westbound. So we're on the Red Mountain Freeway, passing through Tempe.
Okay. Yep, this is 101 then. Yes.
Yeah, I think people generally call it the 10 or the 17, yeah. Again, I think the only freeways that I've openly heard people call by name are those along the 202.
Yeah, that would make sense. I believe that, and that also tracks what that would be the area that I'm least familiar with in Phoenix Metro. So,
yeah, I had every route in Phoenix covered in my travels. Outside now, the South Mountain and the Northern Parkway.
Well, you better take a long weekend when all this craziness ends and go drive the South Mountain.
Yeah.
Before they develop everything around it.
Yes, before it becomes a parking lot in 5 years.
Yeah.
I was telling you that's something that I wouldn't be surprised if I go back to Phoenix next year, just spend a few days out and explore things, drive some roads, do a little bit of hiking, maybe catch a hockey game if it's the right time of if the schedule cooperates.
In other words, if the Islanders are in town.
I'll go see hockey games that don't involve the Islanders. One of the best hockey games I went to was just a random game I went to the last season of the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit when that was open. I saw a great Red Wings and Canucks game. just happened to be, I was in Detroit, and I'm like, oh, I can go see this game. And that was a goaltending masterpiece by Ryan Miller when he was playing for the Canucks.
Wow, Ryan Miller of Buffalo Sabres fame.
Yeah, that's, but he spent the latter few years of his career in Vancouver and Anaheim. I think he had a cup of coffee in St. Louis as well.
So
there are.
Sorry.
I was going to mention something that AJ mentioned in the chat here. There are various logo signs that are situated randomly around the state, and as a general, there was the 1912, the 2012 Centennial signs that got put up all over the place, and there are still remnants of those.
Yes, and I noticed that when I was driving around in northern Arizona in November 2018, and just you'd be on like I-40, like in the middle of the state, and you'd see the Arizona Centennial sign.
Yep. That's still hanging around. There was actually one on this road as you slowly passed by it. There was a freeze frame bonus.
Kind of like the bicentennial barns of Ohio, I guess. You just see them in random places.
All right, I'll shut up.
Yeah, the thing that's...
But it's an interesting... So, this was the 48th state admitted to the Union, right? So, 1912.
Yep.
And, this is the last of the continental U.S., and I remember when those signs appeared, and I'm surprised they haven't taken them down yet, but it's interesting.
Well, they're better than Cuomo signs.
Yes. Capiche?
Hey.
No, just the signs, not the bridge.
I taste New York.
Yes.
I heart New York.
Well, back to Arizona.
Anyway. Yes, we are fast approaching the west end of the Red Mountain Freeway at the edge of the downtown core, which is starting
at the
to
mini stack.
The mini stack.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably not all that mini.
No.
There's nothing mini about it with the amount of traffic it handles, that's for sure.
Yeah, it apparently handles on a daily basis 387,000 vehicles. That's probably between all the different freeways.
It's the most traveled one. One would think the stack would be the one that is, but it is not. And no, we don't serve mini stacks at Denny's.
Maybe they could have a Grand Slam interchange so you can serve that.
Ooh.
That sounds pretty good.
Hey, that's why I prefer to call it the short stack. Then you'll be a pancake short. There's one thing that's totally random here that I like interesting about Arizona is they actually have pretty much all the warning signs in words rather than symbols. So the speed reduced ahead signs instead of having the upcoming speed limit, you're totally up in the air as to what the new speed limit is.
Yeah, because everybody...
It's an Arizona freeway. Nobody knows what the speed limit... Nobody...
Yeah, what is the speed limit?
The speed limit anyway.
The only 55 on a freeway is on I-17, and the only time that somebody actually gets pulled over that is you're just harming the environment. Whatever, move on.
Yeah, I remember, basically that around Phoenix there used to be speed cameras on the freeways.
But even then, Scottsdale.
Yeah, and even then they'd announce it ahead of time. Oh, speed camera for 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew that.
So that's
a camera.
That's an interesting point that Scott brought up. Arizona is one of the few states left that still has a legacy back from when the national speed limit was 55. If the speed limit is 55 in Arizona and you break the speed limit, you can get pulled over, but the ticket is for wasting of a finite resource. It's not for speeding.
Really?
Only if it's a 55 zone, but that is still on the books as the ticket in Arizona for speeding in a 55 zone.
No kidding.
And it's a lower fee, and it's it's
Wasting of a finite resource.
Well,
Yes.
you know really what the NMSL was all about? Oil.
Finite resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, essentially why they had that. And you didn't even notice that you went through the short stack there, by the way.
Here we go. I'll paste the statute into the chat for anybody who's interested.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Wasting of a finite resource.
Yeah. All right, so we checked out the Red Mountain Freeway section of 202. Now we're going to see the Santan section of 202. And because it's Arizona and because there's a lot of transplants, we just passed a massive golf driving range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Driving ranges, retirement communities.
You call it. Yeah. It's just a smorgasbord.
No shortage of
No,
golf
it's-
courses around here.
It is fascinating the number of water-intensive uses there are in Phoenix, which, for those that don't know, most of the water in Phoenix comes from the Colorado River, actually. It's called the Central Arizona Project,
Yep.
and they've basically built a canal from the Colorado River all the way to Phoenix and then on to Tucson, and that provides a lot of the drinking water. The golf courses are irrigated with treated wastewater, but that's another story.
Don't eat the grass.
Don't eat the grass.
Of course, that's the same Colorado River that Southern California gets all of its water from, too.
Everybody
Yes.
wants to steal the river.
Everyone wants a piece of the Colorado River. You guys remember the I-8 drive through the Imperial Valley, and that
Yes.
exists because of the Colorado River as well.
Mm-hmm. It was a little fascinating seeing it from the lower reaches on Mexico too when I crossed from Baja California to Sonora, and it's like, where does all the water go?
It went to the golf courses in Scottsdale.
Yes.
It also spilled into the Salton Sea.
Yeah, spilled. That's a good way to say it.
Another thing about Arizona is their super tall exit tabs.
Yeah, these are a bit supersized,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. At least they're not butted in like New York's are.
Well, we're still living in the Stone Age because we use sequential exit numbers.
Yeah.
And yes, all the Phoenix rivers are dried up for the most part. It's usually during the winter, during rainy season, and possibly during a monsoon season if it rains enough. But generally, you don't find a drop of water in most of the Southwest, even outside Arizona. When I lived in California, the Santa Clara River ran north of where I lived, or should I say the bed of the Santa Clara River.
Right. And even when there's water in them, it's not like they're rushing rivers. It's more like there's a little creek where in a giant river bed, right? It's not.
Yeah.
When it's raining hard, it's not a creek. It's a rushing.
It's a brook.
Well, yes. During a monsoon, it becomes
It becomes roaring
something
rapids.
scarier. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the...
And there's 24.
Yep, this is the west end of the Gateway Freeway. And this is
You can
the
take
only...
this interchange at 85 if you want.
You probably could. Yeah, because these flyovers are massive. They go on for quite a distance.
Yeah. this is something you probably didn't know. Arizona has a similar mentality to the folks in Virginia as far as speed limits are concerned, where Virginia said anything above 80 is considered reckless driving. In Arizona, you have the same philosophy here, where 85 and higher is considered reckless driving.
Well, it's a good thing I wasn't pulled over for going 85.
Yep.
Is it the same basic penalty for reckless driving in Arizona as opposed to Virginia?
I'm not sure what the details are on that. It's just that I knew that when I looked at a list of laws that had been on there. I don't think the people public as much as the Virginia is. But yeah, what would Austin say or do it?
I mean, I would say in my time in Arizona, you saw plenty of people driving 85 without fear of something like that happening. So I don't know what the exact penalty is, but I get the impression that it's not as scary as in Virginia.
Well,
or enforcement is.
You did notice. Did you notice that sign that for the through route for Phoenix Globe was 60 being aligned left there?
I didn't notice that at first glance, but when I go back and look at the
you're gonna see
the video later on, I'll probably notice it.
You're gonna see it again here.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have left space for.
West?
I mean, a long time ago, that would have been also US 70, I believe, but that was several sign replacements ago, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it, west of the line. So there could have been another, another highway, or it could just be something that when they replace the signs in kind as a legacy from US 70.
Possibly. The 70 ends east here near Globe.
Right.
Right, but yeah, I mean, it has since I don't know when they truncated it, but...
Super Red Tan.
One of those interesting interchanges for its color with the granite.
Yeah. Yeah, really impressed with the amount of effort they put in to make these interchanges look good.
Yep. Everything's bigger in Texas, though.
That is true.
This doesn't have any frontage roads. They only needed 4 levels. And actually, this is level 2 because 60 actually passes under.
Okay, so that's that. Okay. I think it's South Mountain time.
Yeah, let's see the new road.
Let's see the new road.
Let's see the new road that I'm the only one that has driven to this point.
Yes.
And videoed.
I'll be interested to see if the signs are in FHWA or in Clearview.
Yeah, that's...
I guess it would depend on when they let the contract and how much they care.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to get a look at the South Mountain Freeway in the westbound direction next week. But here's a look at a section of it in the eastbound direction. Beginning at I-10 and starting off heading in the southerly direction before looping back to the east towards I-10 in Chandler. I believe this freeway opened on December 20th of last year. So when I came through to film this, it had not even been open for 2 months yet.
Good timing.
Mm-hmm. And the super speeder law not being 80 makes sense. I mean, that's only 5 over the maximum allowed speed limit in Arizona.
Yeah, so many of the highways in Arizona have 75 speed limits.
Any rurals, any of the interstates, all the interstates outside the urban areas have 75.
Right. And maybe it's if they have that 85 mile an hour reckless driving law, then that's something that they might have to change that law if they decide to raise the speed limit to 80, because there's certainly parts of the rural interstates in Arizona that could be 80 miles an hour.
And this is FHWA font, not Clearview.
Yeah, that's nice to see new signs with FHWA again.
Yep.
For now.
For now.
Isn't Clearview allowed again?
Yeah, Texas said, no, you cannot take away Clearview from us.
The speed limit is still 65 for now on this. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think even with no traffic as of right now, that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I believe this whole corridor is 65. Really, just about all the freeways in Phoenix are 65.
Yep.
I mean, the biggest exception to it is I-17.
Yep.
There are a couple other exceptions here and there, but by and large, it's a 65 metro area blanket.
There's actually a night speed.
I guess going East 10 doesn't go up to 75 until the 347 interchange, so I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
Yep.
There's actually a night speed limit in Tucson, is there not?
Pardon?
There is a night speed limit in Arizona?
Well, the city of Tucson has some night speed limits on its city streets. The interstate is a blanket 65, but there are a few city streets that have night speed limits within Tucson.
I know Montana has a night speed limit.
Yep.
10 is a night speed limit?
Yeah, on the 2-lane.
Yeah, I took where was I? I took a US 93 from Kalispell to Missoula, and I think it was speed limit was 5 miles an hour or less at night, and
in Montana, parts. Yeah.
Montana, yeah.
Yeah. In Montana, it's 65 at night if you're a car, and 55 at night if you're a truck.
Yep.
I remember trying to get into Missoula before it was dark so I could still drive faster.
You can cross the solid line in off hours.
Well, you can cross a solid line, period, because there's no dashed lines on the HOV.
Correct. It's not double. It's only single.
And it acts like a dashed line because, again, there's no other striping pattern for the HOV.
Nope.
That's how Washington handles it too. But not. Yeah, I know California does the double yellows with the designated entry/exit points, but.
Yeah, and it's not a 24-hour HOV restriction like we saw in Nevada. This is peak hours only.
Yep. In Nevada, in Las Vegas or Los Angeles, it's 24-hour.
Yeah, so I know you guys are trying to peg me for doing illegal shit on my videos, but you can't do that here. So it's perfectly legal, so ha
Nada poo poo. Yeah.
I mean, Arizona drivers are some of the worst anyway. You see people just left lane camping for no reason, and for Western drivers, these guys are by far the least disciplined. So you can really do whatever you want when you're in Arizona.
No, they're all from other parts of the country, anyways. They're all fibs.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
There's a lot of them transplanted from Fibistan.
Yeah, they're all from Chicago. Well, that's probably why they have so many Culvers, because everyone comes in from Chicago.
Yeah,
actually. So yeah, Culver's actually, when they expanded outside of the Midwest, Arizona was the first place they went. So there was just Culver's in the Midwest and then Culver's in Arizona for a while, and then they started filling in the middle. But
yep,
for a while. Yep.
There's transplants from everywhere in Phoenix, guys.
Yeah.
Don't even try to single out anybody. There's just
there's
everywhere.
there's plenty from New York as well. They don't all go to Florida and North Carolina from New York. So
No, yeah.
Phoenix is the world's largest retirement community.
Yeah, and people come from literally all over the country, except maybe Florida, to hang out in Arizona. You know, you got people from the Northeast, the Midwest, the West Coast.
yeah, I have relatives who they winter in Yuma. So
I have aunts and my late father also was retired out here.
Arizona is one of the states that doesn't do state income tax, right?
They do. It's not very high, but they do state income tax.
Yeah, it's Nevada that doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Nevada, Tennessee, Florida, Washington State. I don't think Texas does either. Well, that's why we have the internet.
And the running joke about Florida, and when you can tell the seasons change, when you can tell it's fall in Florida, I could say the same thing about Arizona, when the license plate colors start to change.
Okay.
Yeah, so the states with no income tax are Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming.
Whereas
I just have to file a Wyoming tax return.
Huh.
It's a negative number.
Maybe they changed something. Who knows?
No, I mean I didn't, and so that's great. I forgot about the fact that I didn't have to file state taxes. That's cool. Yep.
And then you have states that have no state sales tax, like Oregon and New Hampshire and Delaware. Home of tax for shopping.
What about Montana?
And Montana too.
Montana, yes.
Yep.
And Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska basically just pays you money to live there.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to Alaska. Here's $1,000. Here's $1,000.
Here's your stipend.
The interesting thing that I posted on my Facebook wall this week was it was really cold here this morning in Wisconsin, but it was up in the 80s up in Fairbanks.
No, that was today?
That was yesterday, actually.
Okay. Yeah, because here in New York, I woke up with snow on my back porch.
Yeah.
And
I saw, it melted by like 11, but it was.
Yeah,
there's
a little bit
up in Troy,
snowpack. There's going to be a bit of a snowpack in northern Wisconsin tonight.
Yep.
1 to 3 inches, big deal.
And even snowpack in the northern Catskills as well.
Gotta go to the cabin, man.
Yep. Remember, actually, I graduated college in 2002, and it snowed on my graduation day.
Nice. In typical Oswego fashion.
Yes. You're done with Oswego. Here's a parting gift. Snow.
So this is how they treated the mountain. Rock cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
How fitting that an Oswego graduation day would involve snow.
Yeah, it would.
Rock cut.
I remember I was at what was it? I think it was 2013, where it snowed about 3 feet up near Whiteface Mountain, the Adirondacks, over Memorial Day weekend. And I actually went to Toronto that weekend, where that Saturday it was about like 55 degrees, but it was sunny. So, so yeah, making it chilly weather. So, although I usually no snow in May, or not much.
No.
So here's the. We've graduated to 303, and you'll notice at the start of this video, there are stubs and placeholders for the future southern extension coming into view right here. And then we're going to pass immediately after this through the I-10 stack, which was completed a couple of years ago.
Interestingly enough, there is no known name for this stack, according to the thieves.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. I would think they call it the Goodyear stack.
They could call it the Stackway Whiz.
Hey!
Yeah.
I like that idea. Yeah, this is another really impressive interchange. It looks amazing.
Gee, what did they leave all over the place here? Not tumbleweeds.
I think they're cups.
Yeah.
Somebody dropped a load of something.
Someone was going to deliver you coffee, but didn't.
They left it on the road somewhere. And this actually is a little bit more Texas-like because of the frontage roads going by.
Yeah, you do have frontage roads intersecting here.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
course,
it's more of a 5-level interchange here.
Yeah, and you have, of course, a lot of the space on the left for future lanes when the 303 extension kicks in.
Right, yeah. Just in case.
Yep.
And
Maybe
by the
they'll
time
call-
they probably paint them in, it's going to be replaced.
Maybe they'll call it the Mega Stack or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's Phoenix, they have to call it the something stack, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, that's something you can call it. The something stack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Stack. Yeah.
Yeah, so 303 as we head north is striped for 3 lanes per direction, but as you can see, there's plenty of room in the median for future lanes here.
Yep. They didn't really have to pave that, but I guess it was part of the contract.
Right. And yeah, it basically allows for any future expansion that they decide to do. So.
Paint the lane and they're done.
Yeah, and emergency vehicles can use it right now, I guess, if there is a crash. So that's good.
Yeah, that plenty of room for them. So.
Yep. You take off the vehicles from the travel lanes if you have a minor crash.
And the snow-capped peaks of the mountains north of Phoenix are now visible.
Yep.
Of course, you see a lot more angles of those as you head north on 17.
Yeah. And then we have some commerce to our left and the right. I'm trying to figure out if that's like a mall or like a factory or something like
The
that.
mall is probably abandoned now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was Arizona one of the states that did a full stay home? Were they one of the states that didn't? Or are they like already reopening? Or like what's the deal with...
They did do a stay-at-home, but I think I'm not sure if they're still under one. But
Yeah, they were
it's not
one of the
really
very
about the
last
stay-at-home being
to go to
lifted. It's about the businesses being willing to open.
Yeah.
I guess they've already reopened, so.
Yeah. Because Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, because New York, you might see some stuff upstate reopen in a week.
Yeah, and that would just be manufacturing and construction, and basically that's going to be in certain regions like the Mohawk Valley, which is where Utica is, or the North Country, which is like Watertown, Plattsburgh, maybe Rochester and Syracuse, but I'm not certain. But then basically I know that the pause, so to speak, was extended to June 6th. So, but it's going to be, upstate will open up probably a few weeks before Like Long Island, the city, the Hudson Valley, even Western New York isn't doing so hot right now either. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see, and we'll just have to ride the storm as it goes.
I guess we're not going to Cincinnati.
No, I wasn't planning on it. I was actually planning on going to Nova Scotia around that time. I'll wait.
Oh.
I'll wait until next June to do that.
Okay.
Considering the border is closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who are they allowing to cross the border right now? Is it just like it's nationals and
essential vehicles like trucks, for instance, and other types of essential traffic. Yeah, like there's people who they might live in Canada, but they may work in the U.S. for instance, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, they probably have to be essential workers too. So.
Yep. And there's plenty of monotubes in the West.
Yeah.
Like that one. Oh, look at those big shields.
aren't they beautiful?
Oh yeah.
Also square.
Yeah. So this is the mini stack one more time.
Yep.
I should have called him Mini Stack. How much it cost? $1 million.
No.
$100
billion. And yes, now you get to see the mini stack. You see how it's kind of shifted off the road there.
Yeah, the orientation
line
of
10 on the left, and this is 51 now.
Yeah, to get a nice, I'd say that's a very nice view of the mini stack.
Yep, this is the optimum.
it's around a 51 northbound. Again, one of the few sections of Phoenix Freeway that's posted at 55.
Yep.
And I am definitely wasting a finite resource by driving this highway.
But then again, so is everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Speed limit, just a suggestion.
Yep. Certainly a nice day to be out on your motorcycle, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
No. Well, right now it's pretty hot out there.
Well, the day it was filmed. I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
The guy in the bike in front of us.
Right, yeah. On February 9th, it was a beautiful day, yeah.
On May 9th, it's definitely warm. If it weren't for the coronavirus, San Antonio meet would be happening this afternoon.
That is true, yeah.
And Utica would have happened this afternoon, too.
That's right. While we're on the subject of meets, I know that Utica is on pause. Has that been rescheduled yet, or are we still waiting?
That I know that Mark Sinsabaugh, who's the guy who's hosting the meet in Utica, he actually posted something in the Facebook page for maybe on the A Roads forum as well, possibly sometime in July.
That's still getting it close.
Yeah, and that's and of course that could wind up being shifted as well, but we shall see. It's basically you probably have a date, and then basically you just have to follow whatever the guidance is.
Yep, and obviously besides the obvious death-defying Cincinnati meet, you got the Sauk Valley meet that's supposed to happen in late June in Northwest Illinois.
Sauk Valley meet.
Yeah. Dixon, Illinois.
Or whatever they call it.
Yeah, Sauk Valley. Yeah. I was trying to remember when the last meet that took place was, and that might have been Newburyport. Unless there was something over the winter.
Yeah, Newburyport. No, that was in Massachusetts. But he had Aurora, Naperville, I think last year.
Yeah, was that in after the end of October though?
No, that was Newburyport.
Yeah, yeah. So I had that on. I'm glad I hosted that meet last year because yeah, if I did it, this fall, who knows?
Yeah, but also for the Sauk Valley, do not expect that one to be pushed back.
Right.
Well, that's the end of June, right?
Yeah, but even if there was pandemic issues, he's not going to.
Chandra said his last meet in 2019 would have been his. He had a Delaware County, Ohio thing. I don't think it was very well attended, but I think it's just basically that would have been the last one then.
What happened here? Have a little feedback issue there?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I was looking at the video.
Oh.
I don't know. Who's complaining about feedback?
Oh, the video scrambled. May have been my machine. But anyway, that's it.
Yeah, because what else was on the burner as far as meets are concerned? Because I think we covered the ones that were going to happen at least in the most short-term future.
The Outer Banks City meet that was moved back 1 year.
Yeah. I think we touched on that a couple weeks ago. Yeah. That's been pushed back a year.
I still plan to have the La Crosse Winona meet in August. I would have been still recovering from Hawaii, but I had to push that back because of obvious reasons.
Yeah,
and
so what do you...
There's a lot of factors in that coming to that, not just states with lingering problems, but the aviation and the airline industry is still not trustable.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
that's going to be a mess for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, North Jersey, late summer, early fall.
And I think that's what we have so far. And then
San Antonio.
And San Antonio was pushed back. I want to say October 3rd.
Yep, and then Kansas City 2 weeks later.
Right. And I think that might be about it this year. I would imagine there will be a lot of meets next year, though.
To make up for the loss this year, yes.
Yeah, because if people are like me, you're postponing things. You're postponing things back a year.
Yep, that's exactly.
I'll do this next year, which means I have to do anything I planned for. Let's say that I planned for 2021, I might do in 2022 or what have you. I don't know of anything that's planned for New Hampshire, Southern Maine, or Mass at this time. I have been, except for May. I know that a couple of us were talking about doing something in North Adams, Mass, which would be more of a scavenger hunt type meet. And I was thinking something similar along the lines for Oneonta, New York, at some point as well. But that's something that I have. If I'm going to try a different concept, I still have to draw some things out. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree that this year is going to be pretty lean, and next year everyone's going to try to make up for it. Whether that's the smart thing to do or not, I guess we'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
By the way, we're on I-10 eastbound, passing through downtown Phoenix.
Crossing the stack right now.
This is the stack, and we're going to cross through the Deck Park Tunnel in a couple minutes. As far as I'm concerned, everybody's talking about having to move their plans back, adjust what they were going to do. I have itineraries drawn up right now for multiple different concepts of summer trips for the month of July or August. And obviously all of that is kind of on hold. We're in wait-and-see mode as far as that goes. We'll see if things improve by July, if I'm able to do anything at all. If if so, then we'll see if I can get some more traveling under my belt. If it is not safe to do so, then we'll simply shelve it for some other time.
Yeah, weren't you supposed to have an online meet in Wilmington, Delaware at some point?
Oh yeah, we were going to continue. I mean, I was just talking more about, road trips for video purposes. Right. But yeah, I mean, there's more online road meets in the works. There's more virtual tours with in-house audiences that were planned. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I've got on the burner right now that obviously we've all kind of had to hit the pause button on. So
yep.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Here's the tunnel.
Yep.
Yeah. The thing about it that is comforting to me and makes this whole thing easy is that I don't have a choice. So
you still have to get out there and drive.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, if it's not safe to do it, then you can't do it. It's an easy choice.
Nope.
So
yeah, I was watching your live drive of your commute home yesterday, and I noticed something approaching the toll booths of the Mid-Hudson Bridge that I have not seen in a couple months. Slow traffic.
Yeah. Right.
Was that everybody going to the state parks?
It was a pretty rainy day, so I don't think they were going to the parks. But they're right near the Mid-Hudson Bridge. There is the walkway over the Hudson, which is the old Poughkeepsie Railroad Bridge, and if you get the chance, that's a nice views from that bridge. But people are hitting the state parks here. There's like some state parks they'll close at basically a certain point in the morning just because too many people showed up. So
yes.
Well, hasn't the load on the state parks in New York diminished a bit in the last couple of weeks? Because
New Jersey
opened them up.
Yeah, New Jersey reopened, so I think that's really taken some of the load off of the ones up in our area.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or at least, in like Harriman and Bear Mountain and Minnewaska, those were being closed very early. You're not seeing as much up near Albany where I am, but it's something where I haven't really even went to the state parks because that's where people are going first. So basically, if I want to go take a hike, I'm walking through the state forest, or I'm finding like a local land trust land to walk around instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see a lot of, or I see some chatter in the live chat regarding the Cincinnati meet, and I'm not ready to make an official announcement on this yet. That meet is scheduled for Saturday, May 30th. And,
right.
There will be some programming on this channel on that day to suit those of you who were not able to make the Cincinnati meet. See that? That's a little teaser for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll wait with bated breath.
Oh, you'll be waiting.
Yeah,
I know you will. But we'll take care of everybody who can't make it to Cincy. and believe, and we really will. Trust me.
It's too bad.
The farthest that I drive right now is 15 minutes out just to give the car a little spin and keep it awake.
Yeah. It's too bad. I was looking forward for a three-way. Which, if you are familiar with Cincinnati, it's actually a way they serve chili.
Uh-huh.
That's what they're calling it these days. But, sorry.
Well.
But, but anyways, yeah. but furthest I've been driving right now is to my family's cabin, which is a little over an hour away from where I live. It's a great place to socially isolate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think a cabin up in the hills would be a good place to go.
Yeah, that's why let's say if you're doing, let's say, an event on YouTube, and I'll check in like, oh, I'm checking in from the middle of nowhere. That's where I am.
Oh yeah. I've seen you do that before.
Get a signal, but I couldn't participate in the webinar if I was up there this weekend. So
you do notice how I-17 becomes I-10's truck route, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Is there any rhyme or reason?
I was gonna say because of the tunnel. Because hazardous cargo has to follow 17.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Hazardous cargo.
Sure enough, there's hazardous cargo signs on the green sign.
Yes.
Yep.
I did notice that. So we're headed eastbound.
Yeah, so northbound 17 begins here and promptly heads west, whereas I-10 west splits away and promptly heads north at this junction.
That's a larger plane coming, isn't it? No.
That's a Air Force plane of some kind.
Yep. Duck.
Yeah, because the
Yeah,
runways
it looks like an old.
the runways for Sky Harbor are directly behind us, where the video started.
Right.
So,
And that was a split.
yes, the split. So this section of 17 that we're on is the western continuation of the Maricopa Freeway, and it is signed as such. This is one of the older sections of freeway in Phoenix. It was built in the early 60s.
Keep in mind, 60 follows. 60 used to go through town.
Yeah, so 60's on a different alignment than it used to be. There used to be US 70 through here too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
70 went west towards Los Angeles.
Okay. And then 80,
I believe 60 and 70 were always entirely concurrent from Globe all the way to Los Angeles. But I don't know that the routes ever split once you got west of Globe. It was sort of a redundant thing. I could be mistaken on that, but I'm 94% sure.
That's not a welcome sign, by the way. That's a centennial sign.
yeah, it's another one of those centennial markers we were talking about earlier. But yeah, you do see a lot of those sprinkled all over the state. Even 8 years after they were put up. But, yeah, as Corco was saying earlier, Arizona is the last of the contiguous U.S. states to enter statehood. It was the 48th state. So I think there's a uniqueness to Arizona's entry to the country, for sure. If they want to leave the signs up for the next 100 years, go for it. I don't care.
Whatever.
It's Arizona. Who gives a shit?
Well, they'll need old signs for the road geeks of tomorrow to photograph.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll replace them in kind with Clearview signs.
Yeah.
Whatever, Josh.
Are there bikey wikey lanes?
Wakey.
Whatever. Somebody kick that guy.
Somebody put that guy in timeout, will you?
Yeah.
Bikey wikey.
Scooby Drive.
Oh my god. The hits just keep on coming, man. What is today? May 9th?
May 9th, yes.
I've been doing the daily live stream on this channel for just about 2 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you think about it, hasn't time flown by, if you think about it, in that term?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of that, yes. I mean, yeah, considering that I haven't really left my house, but I haven't stopped working per se.
Right, because it's been about 2 months since as I like to put, the world turned upside down.
Yeah, and Durango Curve, guys.
We've been right around when what's his face from the Utah Jazz tested positive for coronavirus.
That was when that happened. Yep, when everything went from okay, we're running our show at normal to everybody bunker down.
Yeah, and it all happened within a few days, right?
Right, yeah.
NBA shut down, NHL shut down the next week, and MLB shut down, and then the lockdown started.
Yep. And then we had the NFL draft at home.
Yes.
Which was
I actually caught somebody with the door open in the toilet.
I actually caught that on when they were broadcast. I usually don't watch the drafts just because it's like 3 hours of
talk,
pretty much. But one thing I remember is Jerry Jones's secret lair.
Oh God, that is terrible.
You know what? You know what I remember about that was the Titans draft room with Mike Vrabel and whatever the hell was going on at his house.
Yeah.
With
the kid taking the dump. Yeah.
Yeah, the dude sitting on the toilet in the background. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Apparently, that was basically just a reflection from the kitchen. It just kind of looked like that, although it really wasn't someone using
he definitely looks.
Welcome to the stack again, guys.
Yeah, now
yes.
on the lower level of the stack.
Yep.
But yeah, he was that dude in the mirror. There was definitely in the fecal position.
Yeah.
So the Mike Vrabel's living room definitely gave birth to a lot of new memes. It's the most attention the Titans have ever gotten in a draft in years.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was, basically, I'm like, they're gonna do the draft at home. I'm like, I can't wait for the memes.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's going to be at least one, maybe two teams that just do something really goofy.
Or, basically, they were also broadcasting into the draft picks, like living rooms and what have you, and their celebrations, and there were things going on too. So
Bill Belichick's dog.
Yeah. And I noticed you were wasting a finite resource again there.
I was.
Had
to get around that bus.
Yes, you were. I'm surprised you did.
So I alluded to this video a little while ago, or maybe a while ago now, but this is a video that will take us for a full lap around the city of Phoenix on the inner loop. So we're going to begin at the northwest corner at the stack where we just were in the last video, and we'll head counterclockwise from here. So please enjoy.
You notice how South 17 has no respect?
Yeah, I wonder where South 17 goes.
Yeah, it's like looking at it, it's got no space on the sign. Dude, where's my respect?
It's the Rodney Dangerfield Freeway.
Yep. But you're on the tallest ramp in the stack.
And that's part of the reason why I went this way. I wanted to see what the view was like all the way up there. And you get a very cool view.
Notice how somebody decided to ride the rail.
Yeah.
Forgot to steer.
Yeah.
Get over there, buddy. And yes, you notice how when you saw the Durango curve back then, the westbound lanes are about a car height higher than the eastbound lanes.
Yeah.
Or the other way around, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I wonder if there's any reason for that, or if that's a a leftover from what they planned to do there, which was to build a freeway west from there.
I think one of the chat members mentioned it. And yes, Central Phoenix.
Yeah. Because I think
Just
you're
like
already...
Central Phila.
Yeah. Well, you're already within Phoenix city limits at this point, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that makes...
Phoenix city limits, you don't exit the Phoenix city limits for about an hour.
Well, yeah, depending on which direction you go in, right?
Yeah, see, you're coming up on the curve right now, and you see the eastbound is practically a story above the westbound lanes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're up on the
So this
embankment.
sort of embankment probably was anticipating an interchange here, but they didn't bother to build the overpass.
Yeah, and if they built the 30 freeway in full that we discussed earlier, it would begin here.
Mm-hmm.
But I say good luck with that.
Yes. Oh, a little channel in the middle of the median. Yeah, coming out here in the cool weather, it's really nice. But 70 dry is a lot colder than 70 humid.
Yeah.
Quite.
A lot more comfortable, too. I think, anyways.
That is true. But when it's cloudy in 70 in dry weather like in LA, I had to wear a sweatshirt.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a dry heat.
You poor thing.
I remember going to, it was in LA one year in December, and it was 60 degrees, so I'm like, I'm in 60, 65 degrees. I'm in, of course, being from New York, I'm like, ooh, that's, I'm thinking, ooh, that's shorts weather. So I'm, I'm going to the Anaheim Ducks game. They're playing the Islanders, and I'm wearing shorts. And the guy next to me in line is like, he called me a show off because I was wearing shorts.
It's not far from the truth, Doug, because, like I said, a 60-degree day in the area down there is significantly different than even now in my area, or area,
Right.
your area, because of the context of the whole thing. It's just dry. Yes, it's dry here.
It's a dry heat.
Yeah. Yes, it's dry right now here where I'm at. I mean, fire levels were elevated. And but still, I mean, that's pretty much what it feels like out there.
It's interesting though. You get used to it when you live down there. I had a car with no air conditioning when I was down in Arizona most of the time, and you just get by. You roll down the window, and that's fine. But when I first moved to Tucson, I had just come from Wyoming. And so I was used to the winter, and I got a job as a hotel bellman, and I was scolded by the people who I had just started working for because I wasn't wearing a coat outside when it was like 65 degrees. I had just been it was January. I had just been in Wyoming, so I'm good. It's hot. And they were like, if you get sick because you're not wearing a jacket, you're going to be in trouble. It's like, well, okay, whatever. But it's you get used to it very quickly, and the folks there are acclimated to the hot weather, and it's fine. But
absolutely, yeah.
I guess it's just like anywhere. You get used to your house being 80 to 85 inside instead of 70 to 75, unless you want to pay $1 million a month in electricity bills, and it works out. It's just a little different. I don't like it myself, but I guess it works for some people.
And this is what you get as a glimpse of the actual interchange for the split. And to answer a question before, I'm not sure, this is actually the first time I've heard inner loop personally. So I don't know if that's something that's popular around here or there or not.
I usually associate Interloop with Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never heard that term before.
I don't think it's a formal thing. That's just kind of what road geeks call it, because it makes sense. It's
It's an Interloop.
Yeah, it's fully traversable. So I think
Pretty
that's
much.
kind of where it's an informal thing that people came up with. And whenever I upload these videos, it's actually going to be titled Phoenix Interloop Freeway or something like that. I'll make sure that I reference that title.
Circles and squares. Whoa, slow down. Oh, this is double white line. Don't cross it.
You don't want to do that.
HOV crossings.
So now we get to see the mini stack on the 10 main line
Yep.
going west.
Which is not as impressive as when you're going up 51.
Yeah, 'cause 51 you're up much higher at this point, so you had a much better view of this craziness in front of us.
Oh yeah, you call that mini stack? I don't think so.
In Wisconsin, they would call that a stack.
They would call that the Marquette interchange.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Or the Zoo interchange.
Yeah, those are those are some impressive interchanges there. That's for sure.
Yep. You add the HOV ramps here, and that makes it a little bit more impressive, though.
Yeah.
More like a high five or a Pangerson.
The Judge.
Yes. I sorely hate those left tabs.
Oh, these ones here?
Yes.
Why? Because they're yellow?
Because they exist.
I think we just lost Scott. I think he just had a stroke.
Uh-oh.
I'm still here.
Oh, well,
Woo!
I don't know what the hell you just said, but... So we're almost at the end of the loop. Still got to
Pretty
go
quick.
through the tunnel.
It's pretty quick.
It's...
Now observe as you're going in to the left to see what I'm talking about with the center bus tunnel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's another
Right
tunnel
after
right
the
there?
HOV exits.
Okay. This reminds me a lot of the Central Artery
there's a
Tunnel
gate
in
there.
Boston.
Yep. Yeah, there was a gate on the front of the tunnel.
Yep, I see that. You know where there's also a gate in basically the tunnel, because there was actually under the South Mall Expressway here in Albany. Basically there is a gate because it was supposed to be like 4 different there was supposed to be more lanes of traffic, and they were actually going to go under different parts under the Empire State Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This guy mentioned about reversible express lanes in the bus tunnel. Good luck with that, because you don't have enough room to make a speedy lane shift into there. And you got a nice little garden in the median.
Yeah. Alright, and that was a lap around the loop.
Yay!
Accomplished in 11 minutes.
Where's my prize? I got first place, didn't I?
You're right behind me.
Oh. Second place is the first loser.
Ouch.
I remember that from the 90s.
We're down to a couple more videos here before we sign off. So let's show you some downtown streets that I managed to cover.
Pass the spooey.
I already have those miles towards travel mapping accounts.
What, spooies?
No, what my price was.
Okay. Was that price in New York or Arizona?
Arizona.
Got it. And yes, I do have that myself. Issuing?
Yeah, I remember the last time I was in when I was in downtown Phoenix. I went to a British pub for a couple drinks with some friends that actually I also met up with in Phoenix. And there was a snuggy pub crawl that walked through the doors.
You went to a British pub?
A British pub in Phoenix, Arizona, and there was a snuggy pub crawl.
Well, what's all this then? You got the British, and you got the British pub. Yeah.
Yes, no.
That's one of the last places in this country I would expect to find a British pub, but
or a snuggy pub crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the flight path for incoming planes to Sky Harbor Airport basically crosses right south of the downtown core.
Yep.
So if you're looking at it from this angle, you will see all the planes hovering a few hundred feet in the air as they pass from right to left.
Not exactly why you have too many tall buildings in Phoenix. You got mid-size, that's it.
Yeah, and you have
downtown area of Phoenix is not that impressive because of all the sprawl.
Yeah,
so you might think
Phoenix grew laterally, not vertically.
Correct. It grew out, not up.
Yeah, if you went another block further, you would pass by Bank One Ballpark, or whatever the hell it's called nowadays.
Chase Field.
Chase Field, that's what it is.
Yeah, Chase bought Bank One. And there's light rail.
It's the Phoenix Dinky.
Yes. And no Josh, no bikey-wakey lanes.
Here's the home of the Phoenix Symphony Orchestra on the right.
Did you get to see the symphony orchestra while you're in Phoenix?
I did not. Actually, the concert that I could have gone to, they do a series every winter, a residency up in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And they had a show that I could have gone to if I was in town for it. I was still up in Las Vegas at the time. But that was the only show that I could have been in a position to go see. I did not get to see an orchestra this winter. That's the first time that's happened in a while.
Yeah.
Like a different one, you know. Because I did, last year I did San Francisco. In San Francisco, which is a fantastic venue. And then the year before that was Houston, and then the year before that was Louisiana, and the year before that was the Miami Symphony. So,
yeah,
I had a nice little streak going there.
Yeah, the only time I got to see a live orchestra was at Tanglewood in the Berkshires.
Well, that's a good venue to visit, that's for sure.
Yeah. An ex-girlfriend dragged me over there.
I assume this was in the summer, right?
This was in the summer many years ago.
For the Boston Symphony, right?
Yeah.
Not the Boston Pops.
No, do not confuse the two of those. Yeah, I did the same thing. I did a Tanglewood trip many years ago myself. I was actually still in high school when I went,
Yeah.
and we did we'd spent the full day there because they do open rehearsals in the morning. So we went to that, and then there was an actual performance in the evening that we went to. So we kind of got two for the price of one that day.
Well, the Philadelphia Symphony, they actually do a summer residency up at SPAC, the Saratoga Performing Arts Center.
Yes, they do. Yep. And I actually, when I was in high school, I did a summer residency up there myself with a state orchestra group, and we were kind of in tandem residency with the Philadelphia Orchestra for about a month and a half up there. So, it basically consisted of our own orchestra rehearsals. We also had master classes with members of the Philly Orchestra as well, and we got to see all their performances, and it was really an amazing experience. We got to meet all the guest soloists and all that. It was just incredible.
Very enriching.
Oh yeah, I have a picture with Yo-Yo Ma from that trip. Yeah, it was unreal. One of the great transformative experiences of my teen years, and I'm sure I'm going to look back on it very fondly for the rest of my life. So where are we now? We're on Central Avenue, heading north, out of downtown. And Phoenix has kind of a second downtown brewing right now.
North Phoenix.
Yeah, I don't know if it has another name, but...
that's what they call it.
What do they call it?
North Phoenix.
Oh, how original. Okay.
Yeah, very original.
Yeah, so you see here, this skyline that we're coming up on, Central Avenue is basically the main street through this second high-rise district that's sprouted up in recent years. So... And again, the Phoenix Dinky joins us along Central Avenue for the ride.
Yes. Such interesting streetlights. Too bad you didn't really get into Mesa area, because Corco might understand this a little bit more than Doug or Dan, but there's streetlights standards that practically bend right at the ground and go over the road. I think we know what this guy's plate number is now.
You think so?
Yeah. Wakey.
That's right. Although there's
no
dedicated
there is a wakey lane.
There is no lane for them. You have to quote-unquote share the road, which you know what
Yep.
that means. Mr. Bikey gets all the road.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way Bikey Wakey likes it.
Yeah. All the palm trees. You're trying to look like Los Angeles, but you're failing. You're not hitting all the greens like you are in the fair in New York.
Well, this was before the coronavirus.
Yeah. If I drove this a month ago instead of 2 months ago, maybe I could have hit all the greens.
Which is quite possible. I wouldn't be surprised if this was an old US 60 alignment.
This may have been 60, wasn't it? Or is
I think it went
incorrect?
North on Central and then took the curve onto Grand.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Yeah. Never understood why they always have to reroute the U.S. routes.
Well, I mean, it makes more sense for Phoenix to control this street than Arizona DOT, and Arizona's not one of those states that lets cities control numbered routes, at least in this case.
Yeah.
Yep.
You turned. No, he turned.
This is a nice urban setting, I would say. It's a neat corridor to drive with the high rises on both sides, and I bring your attention to the landscaping and the effort that they put in to really make things look great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the palm trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's much more spread out and roomier than an Eastern or Chicago.
Yeah. Although Chicago is a fantastic city to drive through, but it's obviously it's got a different feel to it because again,
Right.
Chicago grew vertically, right?
Yes. Same with San Francisco, where it didn't have much room to grow outward because of all the water.
Yeah. There was that problem with that ocean, right?
Yep. The bay and the ocean. And in
Notice the
Phoenix, the capital is practically a museum right now. They don't even host government operations in the capital anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did go by the state
Oh,
capitol.
look, Dinky Train.
Yeah, there it is. I did go by the state capitol. I didn't see a whole lot going on. Did they at some point relocate all the state activities elsewhere?
Yeah, they're in buildings that surround the Capitol.
Okay, but they're not actually in the Capitol.
No. They didn't go as disparate as like Illinois, where everybody does. Okay, the Capitol is in Springfield, but everybody works in Chicago.
Yeah.
I remember when I went looking for the Wyoming State Capitol building. It was in scaffolding.
Yeah.
It was actually closed. I'm like, huh.
Well, that's sad. That's a cool Capitol building too.
Cheyenne, yeah.
Cheyenne, yeah. Small town, biggest city, Wyoming, small town.
Yeah, Casper and Cheyenne continuously fight over who's actually bigger. I'm not.
Cheyenne, I found was nicer than Casper.
Yeah, see
It's
these,
way nicer. Yeah.
see these streetlight standards? There's some places where because of power lines running right next to them, they were really stretched down in Mesa area. Corco, you might recognize that from Billings, too.
No.
You haven't been in Billings much, huh?
He's not a Billings
No, I've been
guy.
to Billings several times, but
It's on the business loop west of
just never
town.
noticed that particular thing.
Yeah, it's on the business loop west of town, up 90.
No, okay.
Yep, we're onto our last video of the evening, and we're back on Central Avenue, this time driving north into town from I-17. It's not a bad view of downtown.
The city skyline's more obvious from here.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Yeah, I'd say there are a few tall buildings up ahead, yeah.
A few. Until a plane comes in and clips them off. That's how disco died.
Disco Demolition Night.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, this is nothing compared to a New York City, Chicago, much less San Francisco or Miami or Tampa. Tampa has no skyline really either.
Not really.
It's small.
Yeah.
Well, I think the city of Phoenix has the same population as the borough of the Bronx, or it's close to that.
Yeah. When I first turned towards Miami's downtown, I was like, I was under a thunderstorm, and I was just east of the thunderstorm, and it was sunny in Miami, but it still looked like the Chicago skyline.
Yeah.
I was like, because of the long coastal line of tall buildings between Miami and Miami Beach.
Yeah. San Jose might have the worst skyline in America for a large city.
Yeah, that's a short one.
Yeah.
I think that has something to do also with airport proximity.
Right, because it is.
Right.
Airport's right there. I flew out of that airport, and
Gallagher said it best.
Closer to the city than I thought.
San Jose, the only city dumb enough to put its airport downtown where nobody cares.
Yes, let's put our airport right downtown. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like San Diego.
That too. All three of these cities.
You know, one of my favorite skylines, Toronto.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And every time I go there, I usually go like once every few years. I'm actually probably due to go back to Toronto once we can leave the country again.
Yeah, I need to go back to Toronto at some point. I need to drive the 407 extension and the 418 that recently opened.
Not my favorite city in Ontario. That goes to Ottawa, but I definitely like the skyline of Toronto.
I was a little fascinated by Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver's an interesting city too.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a cool one to visit someday.
Yeah,
So.
Which is kind of interesting because all the freeways go around it.
All the
If you find freeways in Vancouver area, they go around downtown. There is nothing as far as a highway that goes in there. It's all city streets.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, Vancouver is a mess as far as trying to drive through.
Concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there in 1995.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm trying to remember, basically, how we got from place to place. Because I know there was a lot less back then. But I did get to cross the Lionsgate Bridge. That was memorable. I might have a picture of that in a photo album in Oregon right now.
I get that on Flickr right now, and I was crossing the Gate Bridge as the center lane was about to switch directions.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've wrapped up the video portion this evening, so I think we've wrapped up the whole presentation. So, guys, any final thoughts on Phoenix or Arizona in general?
It's a dry heat.
I need to go back and do some hiking, and drive some of the mountain roads that are outside of the cities, like the road Arizona Highway 87 up to Pace, and that's on my to-do list at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona is one of the most diverse states in the country, and it's worth checking out, especially even getting off the interstate and going up into the mountains. It's more than just the Grand Canyon and Phoenix.
Yeah, I speak very highly of Sedona, for instance.
Oh yeah, Red Rock. Rock. Have you been to Jerome?
That I have not been to.
Well, let's just say that Jerome You're not horizontal. You're vertical.
Right.
Land is vertical.
Yeah, I've driven down the Oak Creek Canyon from Flagstaff to Sedona, but I didn't get past. I think it's Route 260. So I took that back to I-17 because I had to get back into Phoenix.
Yeah, it was actually 89A that goes through Jerome from.
Right.
Yeah. So
I was fascinated by that. I went through going down, and then it's like look back, and it's like, yeah, it's right, pretty much built into the mountain.
Yeah. So guys, Scott, Doug, Corco, thank you very much for joining.
Pleasure
us.
having us.
Pleasure.
I'm sure we'll be in touch again. You know, we still got some more Arizona stuff to cover in the next couple of weeks, so I'm sure we'll be seeing you guys on here again. And again, to all the live chat audience tonight, thank you all very much for watching. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here every week. It's been a blast doing these presentations for you guys. This is actually the final webinar in the Southwest U.S. series. So we're done with webinars for a little bit, at least in the Southwest, and we'll have a couple more virtual tours for you guys coming up starting next week. You know what I'm going to do real quick before we sign off? I'm going to go back to this slide, and so I think I said I was going to mention this before we signed off, and then I totally forgot about it. So let's do this real quick. So you have your map here, right? Now, this takes us through 516. So that'll be next week, if I can get my pen to work here. So this is where we'll be at next week. After that, we hadn't really made any decisions because we weren't sure exactly what the stay-home orders would look like beyond that date. But since we have some clarity on that, at least in the tri-state area here in New York, it's going to be a very quiet Memorial Day weekend with folks staying local. But we will do on 5/23, and you guys will be the first to hear this. I will post this more formally later, but we will do another one of these virtual tours, and we'll do this highway on 5/23. So that's the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. So we'll have that following the 5/16 virtual tour, and then again on 5/30. I really need to get better at writing with this thing. So I'm writing like a 3-year-old. Just like the good old days.
Mm-hmm. It's probably better than I could write with that. Yeah, I think I saw like a typing option on your toolbar.
There is an option for that, but I don't have that capability at this time. I know what you're talking about, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So
Forbidden Roads.
So again, 516 Phoenix Beltway and the 405 in California, 523 US 163, 530. That's a surprise. We'll post that later. But I do have something already actually finished for what the hell is going on with this thing? For that day, so stay tuned for that. I think we're going to sign off right here. Again, it's been a lot of fun bringing this to you. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoy bringing these to you every week. But I think we'll sign off right here. So from all of us here, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow we're interviewing, what do you call it?
David.
David Golub, I believe.
Yeah, who the hell was I interviewing? It was, what's his face? Golub of EastCoastRoads.com. So we'll sit down and we'll talk with him for a couple hours tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We hope to see you there for that. I'm looking forward to chatting with him. He's an interesting character. So,
say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye.
Yep. So, anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, enjoy your night and be safe, everybody. And we'll talk to you all again soon. Take care.